It begins with a sound that shakes the air and rattles the ground beneath your feet. A low, thundering roar that signals the arrival of one of America's most formidable war machines, the B-1B Lancer. Now, these massive bombers are not just flying exercises or displays of power in some distant desert. They had just arrived right at Russia's doorstep, bringing with them a storm of questions, fears, and possibilities. To understand the weight of this moment, we must first look back. The B-1B Lancer, often called the Bone, short for B-1, was born during the height of the Cold War. It was designed with one purpose: to penetrate deep into Soviet airspace, evade defenses, and deliver nuclear devastation if the unthinkable ever came to pass. This was not just another aircraft. It was a weapon built to symbolize power, speed, and dominance in the skies. When it first appeared, the B-1 was a nightmare for Moscow, capable of flying at speeds over 900 miles per hour, skimming low to ground to avoid radar, and carrying a staggering payload of bombs. It was built to do what few other aircraft could: survive against the world's most advanced offenses and still strike its target. The Soviets knew that if these bombers ever crossed into their territory, the clock would start ticking toward catastrophe. For decades, the B-1B stood as a shadow, a reminder of what could happen if East and West ever pushed too far. It was retired from carrying nuclear weapons after the Cold War, but remained a symbol of American air power, retooled for conventional missions, strikes in Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond. Wherever it went, it carried the same message: America is watching and it is ready. Now, decades later, with tensions between Washington and Moscow climbing once again, the Bone is back in the headlines. But this time, the location of its arrival is no distant battlefield. It is right next to Russia's borders. The news broke quietly at first, a military statement, a few images, but soon the world realized what had just happened. U.S. B-1B Lancers touched down at air bases in Europe, placing them just a short flight away from Russian territory. The timing could not have been more deliberate. With the war in Ukraine raging and NATO facing its most tense standoff in decades, the sudden arrival of America's heavy bombers sent a chilling signal. These planes are not like the fighters that regularly patrol NATO skies. The B-1B is built to carry firepower on a scale few other aircraft can match. In a single mission, it can haul up to 75,000 pounds of bombs, more than any other U.S. bomber in active service. To put that into perspective, a single B-1 can unleash the equivalent firepower of an entire squadron of fighter jets. And now, they are stationed just a few hundred miles from Russian soil. What makes this move even more significant is the history. For years, the U.S. has rotated aircraft through Europe, but bringing in B-1BS is different. These bombers are not only fast and powerful, they're flexible. They can launch precision strikes against military targets, support ground troops with overwhelming fire, or, in theory, even be reconfigured for nuclear missions if ever required. They are the embodiment of escalation, and everyone knows it. Imagine for a moment what this looks like from Moscow's perspective. Across the western border, advanced NATO radars begin to pick up the faint signatures of aircraft capable of penetrating deep into Russian territory. Each takeoff, each patrol, becomes a question mark. Is this just another exercise, or is it the beginning of something more? This uncertainty is part of the strategy. It keeps adversaries guessing, forces them to respond, and stretches their defenses thin. But beyond the strategy, there's also symbolism. The B-1B hasn't been on Russia's doorstep like this since the Cold War era. Its very presence is a message, loud and clear, that America is not backing down. And in the high-stakes world of geopolitics, that message may matter just as much as the weapons these aircraft carry. As the B-1BS settle into their new European bases, the world watches with unease. Each day they remain parked on a runway, fueled and ready. They serve as a reminder that the line between deterrence and confrontation is razor thin. Their presence is not just military. It is psychological, a game of nerves between two nuclear powers that have tested each other for generations. For Russia, the sight of American bombers so close to its borders is a bitter echo of the past. Memories of the Cold War resurface, when both sides lived under the constant shadow of sudden attack. But this is not the 1980s. The map has changed, The alliances have shifted, and today's flashpoints, from Ukraine to Baltic states, make the stakes even higher. In this fragile balance, the arrival of the B-1BS is like adding fuel to a fire already burning out of control. Yet, there is a strange paradox here. While the bombers raise tensions, they also serve as a deterrent. Their very presence may prevent escalation, reminding Moscow that NATO is not unprepared and not unwilling to act if pushed too far. It is a delicate, dangerous dance, one that relies on perception as much as raw power. Still, the question lingers: how long can such a strategy hold? History teaches us that the longer great powers stare each other down, the greater the chance of miscalculation. A radar blip mistaken for an attack, a jet straying too close to the border, a single order given in panic. Any of these could spark a chain of events impossible to stop once begun. And so, the roar of the B-1B Lancer now echoes across Europe, a sound both familiar and ominous. To some, it is the sound of security, a shield against aggression. To others, it is the drumbeat of escalation, a warning of storms yet to come. One thing is certain. With these bombers stationed at Russia's doorstep, the world has stepped back into a shadow it once hoped was gone forever.